The first thing I saw when I drove back into Briar Glen was my own handwriting nailed to the wall of the old bait shop. Not a billboard, not a welcome sign, a yellowed piece of notebook paper framed behind glass like a historical document, with two crooked stick figures drawn at the bottom and the words, I, Caleb Brooks, promise to marry Lila Hart someday, even if she gets bossy. Especially if she gets bossy. I nearly drove my truck into a mailbox. I was 32 years old, coming home with two suitcases, one dead phone, and the kind of life people called successful right before it collapsed from the inside. I'd spent the last 8 years in Charlotte selling commercial insurance to men who collected watches more expensive than my first car. I had a downtown apartment with a view, a closet full of shirts I hated, and not one person who noticed when I stopped laughing. So, I quit. No dramatic speech, no heroic exit. I just woke up one Tuesday, stared at my reflection in a bathroom mirror, and realized I'd become a man my 16-year-old self would have avoided at a gas station. By Friday, I was driving home, and by noon, I was parked in front of Lila Hart's bakery, staring at a childhood marriage contract I had apparently signed in purple crayon. The bell above the bakery door jingled when I walked in. Warm sugar, coffee, and cinnamon hit me first. Then the sound of someone laughing in the kitchen. Not a polite laugh, a real one. The kind that leaned back and took up space. I knew that laugh before I saw her. Lila Hart stepped out carrying a tray of blueberry scones, and for half a second, I forgot how to be a grown man. She had flour on one cheek, her dark hair tied up with a red bandana, and eyes that still looked like they knew every dumb thing I'd ever done and were saving them for later. She was 32 too, though somehow time had made her sharper and softer at the same time. The girl who used to race me barefoot through creek beds had become a woman with strong hands, tired grace, and a mouth that looked like it had learned restraint the hard way. She saw me. The tray lowered an inch. Well, she said, if it isn't my fiancé. Every head in the bakery turned. I froze beside a display of lemon bars. An older man at the corner table lowered his newspaper. A woman in yoga pants looked from me to Lila like she'd just been handed the first episode of a series she intended to binge. I cleared my throat. That document is not legally binding. Lila slid the tray into the case without taking her eyes off me. Interesting opening statement from a man who wrote, especially if she gets bossy. I was 8. You were specific. I was under emotional duress. You had my baseball glove. You gave me that glove as a dowry. Someone in the corner snorted. And just like that, for the first time in months, maybe years, I laughed without checking who was watching. Lila smiled, but it didn't last long enough. That was the first thing I noticed after the shock wore off. She was happy to see me, I could tell, but there was a guardedness underneath it, like she had learned not to lean too hard on anything that might leave, including me. You look, she began, unemployed? Expensive and exhausted. That's fair. You staying long, Caleb? There it was. Not how are you? Not I missed you. A practical question wrapped around something tender. I looked down at my boots. I don't know yet. Her face changed so fast most people would have missed it. I didn't. Lila turned to the espresso machine. Then I'll make your coffee in a paper cup. That landed harder than it should have. When we were kids, Lila and I had been inseparable. My mom used to say we were two halves of one bad idea. We built forts in the woods, stole peaches from Mr. Whitcomb's tree, and once tried to baptize a raccoon because Lila thought it looked spiritually troubled. Then my dad died when I was 17, and grief turned me into someone obsessed with escape. I left for college, then internships, then jobs, then bigger jobs. At first, I called. Then I texted. Then I became one of those people who said, we should catch up soon. Like soon was a place you could visit. Lila stayed. She took over her grandmother's bakery, cared for her mother during cancer treatments, and became the kind of woman people depended on. The kind I used to depend on before I mistook leaving for becoming. She set the coffee in front of me. Paper cup, black 2 sugars, she remembered. I wrapped my hand around it. You still know my order. I remember lots of useless things. Like our engagement. That one's on public display, so technically the town remembers it for me. I glanced toward the window. Why is that thing hanging at the bait shop? Because Eddie found it in an old tackle box after his dad passed, and because this town has no respect for privacy or childhood stupidity. And you let him frame it? She leaned on the counter, close enough that I caught vanilla and lemon on her skin. Let him? Caleb, your promise has been bringing tourists into my bakery for 5 years. My promise? People take pictures, come in, ask if I'm the bossy girl. I sell them scones. Honestly, you've been a decent business partner. I smiled. Do I get royalties? You abandoned your stake. The word abandoned slipped between us and changed the air. Lila looked away first. I wanted to say something clean and easy. I wanted to say I was sorry in a way that would erase 15 years of birthdays missed and calls unanswered. But apologies were not magic. I knew that now. So I said, I was wrong to disappear. Her fingers stilled on the counter. The bakery quieted in that subtle, small-town way where everyone pretends not to listen and fails professionally. Lila's eyes came back to mine. You didn't disappear. You sent Christmas cards with printed signatures. I winced. That's worse. It was impressive, actually. Nothing says deep personal connection like embossed snowflakes. I deserve that. You deserve more, but I'm working. A line formed behind me, giving us both an excuse. I stepped aside and watched her move through customers with easy warmth. She knew everyone's name, their orders, their troubles. She teased a retired teacher about flirting with the pharmacist. She slipped an extra muffin into a paper bag for a teenage boy and told him not to tell his mother. She belonged here in a way I never had, or maybe in a way I'd been too scared to. And watching her, I felt something old wake up. Not nostalgia, that was too small. It was the pull I used to feel when she grabbed my wrist and said, "Come on, Caleb," like the world was waiting and I was taking too long. When the rush eased, I was still there. Lila lifted an eyebrow. You planning to haunt the pastry case all day? I was thinking about buying a scone. Big spender. And asking you to dinner. The words came out before I could polish them into something safer. Her hand paused over the register. The room noticed again. Of course it did. A fork actually stopped halfway to someone's mouth. Lila's expression didn't soften. If anything, it sharpened. Dinner, she repeated. Yes. With me. That's usually how asking works. After 15 years of paper cup friendship, I'm trying to upgrade to ceramic. That almost got her. One corner of her mouth betrayed her before she caught it. Then she walked around the counter, untied her apron, and stopped in front of me. We were close now. Too close for the town not to inhale as one body. She looked up at me, and for a second, I saw the girl from the creek daring me to jump from the high rock first. You remember what you promised me when we were 8? She asked. To marry you even if you got bossy. Especially. Especially, I corrected. Her eyes held mine. Then prove you meant it. My pulse kicked once, hard. How? Lila took my coffee from my hand, poured it into a ceramic mug, and set it on the nearest table. Then she pointed to the empty chair across from it. Stay, she said. Not forever, not yet. Just through one cup of coffee. No phone. No escape plan. No pretending you came back by accident. She leaned closer, her voice low enough that only I could hear. And if you can tell me the truth about why you really came home, Caleb Brooks, maybe I'll let you ask me to dinner again. I sat. It should not have felt like a grand romantic gesture, lowering myself into a wooden chair in a bakery at 1 in the afternoon. But Lila watched me do it like I'd stepped onto a bridge between who I'd been and who I might still become. She took the chair across from me. The whole bakery pretended not to care so aggressively that Mrs. Bellamy knocked over a spoon jar. Lila folded her hands around her own mug. Start talking. Right here? You afraid of witnesses? I'm afraid of your customers live commentating my emotional collapse. They'll be respectful. From the corner, Eddie called, No, we won't. Lila didn't look away from me. Ignore Eddie, he peaked in 1987. I heard that. You were meant to, I laughed, and some of the tightness in my chest loosened. Then Lila waited. That was always her most dangerous skill. She could outwait anyone, teachers, parents, weather, me, especially me. I stared into my coffee. I came home because I hated my life. Her expression changed. Not softened exactly, focused. I had everything I thought I was supposed to want, I said. Good job, good apartment, nice suits, people calling me dependable because I answered emails at midnight. And every morning I woke up feeling like I'd been cast in a role I didn't audition for. Lila's thumb moved slowly along the side of her mug. I kept telling myself it was normal, I continued being. That being tired all the time was just adulthood. That not missing anyone meant I was independent. That not being missed meant I was free. Her eyes flicked down. I swallowed. Then one night, I got home from work and realized I hadn't said one honest thing all day. Not one. I'd smiled, negotiated, agreed, lied by omission, laughed at jokes I hated. And when I opened my contacts to call someone, I looked at her. I stopped on your name. Lila went very still. I didn't call, I admitted, because I knew if I heard your voice, I wouldn't be able to pretend I was fine. The bakery sounds blurred around us, espresso hissing, chairs scraping, someone murmuring about pie. But the space between Lila and me felt private now. Somehow, like we were 8 again under the willow tree, sharing secrets with grass stains on our knees. You should have called, she said. I know. No, Caleb, you should have called when your dad died and you stopped sleeping. You should have called when college was hard. You should have called when your mother sold the house. You should have called when you started becoming someone you didn't like. Each sentence landed. Not cruelly, accurately. I know, I said again, because it was the only true thing big enough. Lila breathed out and looked toward the window. Sunlight caught the flower on her cheek, a pale streak near her mouth. I wanted to brush it away with my thumb. The desire came so suddenly I curled my hand around my mug. You don't get to come back and make me your moral compass, she said quietly. I'm not asking you to. Good. I'm asking for a chance to know you now. Her gaze returned to mine. There. That was the thing, the real thing, the part that scared me more than failure. I know I missed years, I said. I know I don't get to act like I can pick up where we left off. But I walked in here and saw you, and it wasn't just memory, it wasn't just guilt. I wanted to sit down. I wanted you to look at me like I could still be worth your time. Lila's lips parted slightly. Then Eddie whispered loudly, Lord, that was decent. She turned her head. Eddie? He raised both hands, respectfully observing. Lila stood so fast her chair scraped. Come on, I blinked. Did I fail? You passed round 1. There are rounds? You think proving a lifelong marriage promise is a single interview process? She grabbed 2 wrapped sandwiches from the display case and tossed one at me. I caught it against my chest. Where are we going? I asked. On your upgraded dinner? It's 1:15. Then it's lunch, genius. She flipped the bakery sign to back in 20 and called to a girl in the kitchen, Mara, you're in charge. Don't let Eddie start rumors. Mara stuck her head out. Too late. Lila ignored that and pushed through the door. I followed her into the warm afternoon feeling absurdly like I'd been chosen. We walked 3 blocks to Willow Creek, where the bank dipped behind the library and the whole town seemed to fall quiet. Lila sat on the old stone wall, unwrapped her sandwich, and patted the spot beside her. Not across. Beside. I sat close enough that our shoulders almost touched, close enough to smell sugar in her hair and feel the heat of her arm through my sleeve. For a while, we ate without speaking. Then, Lila nudged my knee with hers. You're staring at the creek. The creek is to your left. I'm appreciating the whole view. She shook her head, but her cheeks warmed. Careful, Brooks. Flattery from a man in expensive shoes can't be trusted. I quit the job. The shoes are unemployed too. Tragic. Do they need a support group? They're hoping a baker takes pity on them. That depends. Can they knead dough? I can learn. She studied me, teasing, fading into something more dangerous. Hope, maybe. Or the fear of it. You mean that? She asked. I looked at her hands, strong and capable, a small burn near her wrist. Flour caught beneath one fingernail. Hands that had built a life while mine had signed contracts. I mean, I don't want to run this time. The breeze lifted a loose strand of hair across her cheek. This time, I didn't stop myself. Slowly, giving her every chance to move away, I reached out and brushed it back. My fingers grazed her temple. Lila's breath caught, the whole world seemed to narrow to that one soft sound. Her eyes lifted to mine, and suddenly we weren't joking. We weren't kids. We weren't the promise on the bait shop wall. We were a man and a woman sitting too close by the creek, remembering everything and discovering something new. Caleb, she whispered. Yeah? If you hurt me again, I'll make it educational. A laugh broke out of me, low and helpless. That is the most romantic threat I've ever received. I'm serious. I know. My hand was still near her face. She didn't pull away. I'm not asking you to trust me today, I said. Just don't decide I'm already gone. Her eyes shone, though she rolled them like that might hide it. You always did make unfair requests. Then she leaned in and pressed her forehead to my shoulder. It was not a kiss. Somehow, it felt more intimate. I sat frozen for one heartbeat, then another. Then I wrapped my arm carefully around her back. She fit there. Not like memory, like home. For 20 quiet seconds, Lila Hart let me hold her beside Willow Creek. Then she pulled back, wiped one eye with the heel of her hand and pointed at me. This does not mean you get dinner automatically. No? No, round 2 begins tonight. What's round 2? She smiled then, slow and wicked, and it hit me harder than any kiss could have. You're helping me bake for the Founders' Day rush, she said. 4 a.m. If you show up late, our engagement is off. We're engaged again? Provisionally. I grinned. Does provisional include hand-holding? She stood, dusted crumbs from her jeans, and held out her hand. Only on the walk back, she said. Don't get arrogant. I took her hand. Her fingers slid between mine like they remembered the way. At 3:47 the next morning, I stood outside Heart and Hearth Bakery with wet hair, 2 coffees, and the nervous energy of a man arriving for a first date disguised as manual labor. The town was dark except for the bakery windows, glowing gold against the empty street. Lila opened the door before I could knock. She wore leggings, an oversized sweatshirt, and a sleepy scowl that did absolutely nothing to make her less beautiful. You're early, she said. I was afraid of losing my provisional status. Her gaze dropped to the coffees. Bribery? Preparedness. What's mine? Lavender latte, oat milk, 1 pump vanilla. She took it slowly. You remember that? I asked Mara yesterday. Lila stared at me. I shifted. That felt more honest than pretending. A smile tugged at her mouth. That answer gets you inside. The bakery before dawn was a different world. Quiet, warm, intimate. No customers, no town gossip. Just steel counters, sacks of flour, and Lila moving through the kitchen like she belonged to every inch of it. She handed me an apron. It was pink and said, Whisk Taker. I held it up. This feels targeted. It was the only one left. There are 6 black aprons on that hook. Only one won't left. I tied it on. Lila's eyes traveled over me, and for the first time since I'd come home, she looked at me without guarding the look, like she was allowing herself one small greedy second. My pulse noticed. She cleared her throat. Wash your hands, city boy. For the next hour, she taught me how to measure flour properly, which apparently did not mean scoop like you're digging a grave. She corrected my grip on the rolling pin by stepping behind me and placing her hands over mine. Every thought I had immediately resigned. Looser, she murmured near my shoulder. Lila? What? You can't stand that close and say looser in a bakery before sunrise and expect me to be normal. Her laugh broke against my back, warm and surprised. You were never normal. No, but I used to function. She didn't move away. Her hands stayed over mine, guiding the rolling pin forward. Her cheek nearly brushed my sleeve. This dough needs gentleness, she said. You can't bully it into becoming what you want. That a baking tip or a life lesson? With you? Both. I looked over my shoulder. Bad idea. Her face was right there. Sleep soft, flower dusted, serious beneath the teasing. My gaze dropped to her mouth before I could stop it. She saw. The air thickened. For one suspended second, I thought she might kiss me, or I might kiss her, or the dough might rise from sheer tension. Then a timer shrieked. We jumped apart like teenagers caught in a church basement. Lila grabbed a towel and opened the oven. Saved by the croissants. I'm starting to resent pastries. You'll respect them by noon. By 5:30, I had flour on my shirt, butter on my forearm, and a deep understanding that Lila Hart was not merely a baker. She was a commander of controlled chaos. She moved trays in and out, checked proofing dough, stirred glaze, answered Mara's sleepy questions, and still noticed every time I reached for the wrong utensil. "You're good at this," I said. She slid a pan onto a rack. "At yelling at you?" "At building something people love." She paused. The compliment landed somewhere tender. I could tell because she immediately reached for sarcasm and missed. "It's just muffins." "No," I said, "it isn't." She looked at the kitchen around us, at the worn counters and old brick walls. "My grandmother used to say bread was the closest thing to proof that patience mattered." She sounds wise. She was terrifying. "Ah, family tradition." Lila pointed a spatula at me. "Careful, you're one bad joke from dish duty." "I thought I was already on dish duty." "You're on romantic probation. It overlaps." I grinned. "Romantic probation sounds promising." "It sounds supervised." "By you?" "Obviously." "Then I accept all terms." Her expression shifted again, that reluctant warmth blooming before she could stop it. At 6, while the first pink light touched the windows, we sat on overturned flower buckets and split a cinnamon roll too ugly for the display case. Lila tore off a piece and held it out to me. I leaned forward and took it from her fingers. Her eyes darkened. Neither of us spoke while I chewed, which was ridiculous because it was cinnamon and sugar, not a vow. But her thumb had brushed my lower lip, and suddenly, every inch of space between us had meaning. "You have icing," she said softly. "Where?" She reached out, then stopped. "You're going to make this difficult." I was hoping. Her thumb touched the corner of my mouth. Gentle. Careful. I caught her wrist, not to stop her, just to keep her there. "Lila," I said, my voice rough. Her gaze lifted. This time there was no timer, no customers, no Eddie. Just her wrist in my hand and my heart behaving like it had been waiting 15 years to make one simple decision. "I want to kiss you," I said. "Not because of the promise, not because of who we were, because of who you are right now." Her breath trembled, and then she whispered, "Prove it." So I did. I kissed her slowly, giving her time to change her mind. She didn't. Lila leaned into me with a small sound that wrecked me. Her hand slid to my jaw, flour cool against my skin, and she kissed me like she was angry at how much she'd missed me, like she was relieved, like she was still deciding whether I deserved it and hated that her mouth had voted yes. I stood, pulling her gently up with me, and she came willingly. We ended up against the counter, not rushed, not careless, just close. Her fingers curled in the front of my apron. When we broke apart, her eyes stayed closed for a second. I rested my forehead against hers. "Round 2? She opened her eyes. "Incomplete." I laughed under my breath. "Harsh. I need more data. I'm available for further study." Her smile was soft enough to hurt. "That's what I'm afraid of." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed on the counter. I ignored it. It buzzed again. Lila glanced down. The screen lit with a name from my old office. Grant Voss. "You can get that," she said, too lightly. "No." "Caleb?" I picked up the phone, turned it off, and set it face down. Her eyes searched mine. "What if it's important?" "It probably is." I took her hand. "But not more important than this." She looked at our joined fingers as if she didn't trust them not to vanish. Then she squeezed once. Good answer, she said. By 7, the front door opened and Founder's Day swallowed us whole. But every time Lila passed behind me, her hand skimmed my back. Every time I looked up, I caught her smiling before she pretended not to. And when Mara arrived fully awake, took one look at us and said, "Oh, finally!" Lila threw a dish towel at her. At 9, Lila slid a box of pastries into my hands. Delivery, town hall, don't drop them. Yes, ma'am. She leaned closer, voice low. And Caleb? Yeah, her fingers brushed the knot of my ridiculous pink apron. If you come back after the delivery instead of disappearing, I'll consider dinner. I bent and kissed her cheek, right at the edge of her smile. I'm coming back, I said. This time, I meant it before she asked me to prove it. Town hall was 6 blocks away. It took me 40 minutes. Not because I got lost. Because Briar Glen had apparently formed a committee dedicated to stopping me every 12 feet and asking whether Lila had accepted my proposal yet. By the time I delivered the pastries, smiled through 3 versions of We Always Knew, and escaped Mayor Finch's attempt to recruit me for the dunk tank, my phone had revived itself in my pocket. 12 missed calls, all from Grant Voss. I stood on the town hall steps with an empty pastry box in my hand and the kind of dread that belonged to my old life. The one with glass conference rooms and quarterly projections and men who said family like it was a weakness. I called back. Grant answered on the first ring. Brooks, finally. Good morning to you too. Where the hell are you? Briar Glen. A pause. That's not funny. It wasn't a joke. You walked out during renewal season. Do you understand the hole you left? I looked across the square. The Founder's Day banners fluttered between lampposts. A kid chased bubbles near the fountain. The bakery windows glowed on the corner, and through them, I could just make out Lila moving behind the counter, my chest eased. Grant, I resigned. You had a bad week. We all have bad weeks. Come back Monday. We'll talk title bump, retention bonus, whatever you need. A month ago, those words would have hooked into me. Title, bonus, need. Now they sounded like someone offering me a more comfortable cage. I'm not coming back Monday. Don't be stupid. This little hometown crisis won't last. I gripped the box tighter. It isn't a crisis, I said. It's my life. Grant laughed once, sharp. Your life is here. I looked at Lila again. She leaned over the counter, laughing at something Mara said. Flour in her hair, sunlight on her face. No, I said quietly. It never was. I ended the call before he could answer. Then I stood there, breathing like I just set down something heavy. When I got back to the bakery, the morning rush had become controlled disaster. Lila was ringing up customers with one hand and boxing muffins with the other. She spotted me over the crowd. Her face changed. Not much, just enough. Relief. It hit me harder than any kiss had. I lifted the empty box like proof. She rolled her eyes, but her smile stayed. For the next 3 hours, I worked wherever she pointed. I poured coffee badly. I restocked napkins with excessive seriousness. I told Eddie he could not pay for a cherry turnover with fishing advice. Lila watched me from behind the counter, amused and careful and bright. At noon, she grabbed my wrist and pulled me into the back kitchen. The door swung shut behind us, muffling the noise. Did you turn your phone off again? She asked. No. Did you answer him? I blinked. You saw the calls? I saw your face when you came back. There was no accusation in her voice. That made it worse. I leaned against the prep table. Grant offered me more money to return. Her shoulders went still. And? And I told him no. She searched my face like she was looking for the trapdoor. Because of me? She asked. I stepped closer. Because of me first? Her throat moved. And because when I imagined leaving again, I said, the worst part wasn't the drive. It was picturing you standing behind that counter pretending you didn't care. Her eyes shone, but her chin lifted. I'm very good at pretending. I know, I hate it. Caleb, I don't have a 5-year plan, I said. I don't have a perfect speech. I have 2 suitcases at my mom's old neighbor's garage apartment and 1 pair of extremely judged shoes. but I know I want to stay long enough to become someone you don't have to brace yourself against. The kitchen was warm around us, smelling of yeast and sugar. Lila looked down at my hands. You keep saying things like that. I keep meaning them. That's inconvenient. I smiled faintly. For your probation system? For my heart, idiot. The words came out so softly I almost missed them. Then I didn't. I reached for her, slow enough to let her stop me. She didn't. My hands settled at her waist, and hers came to my chest, fingers curling in my shirt. You still have to ask me to dinner properly, she whispered. Lila Hart, I said, will you have dinner with me tonight? Not as a test, not as a childhood joke, but because I am wildly, embarrassingly interested in the woman who threatens me with baked goods and emotional accountability? Her laugh trembled. That was nearly proper. Nearly? You said wildly. I can downgrade to moderately. Don't you dare. I bent my head. She met me halfway. This kiss was different from the first. Less surprise, more choice. Her arms slid around my neck and mine tightened at her waist. And for a few seconds, the bakery could have burned down around us, and I would have asked the flames to wait. When she pulled back, her cheeks were flushed. Dinner, she said. 7, pick me up. From here? From my place. My eyebrows rose. I've been promoted to knowing where you live? You already know where I live. I bought my grandmother's house. The blue one on Alder Street? Still blue, less haunted. I liked the haunted part. You liked being scared because I held your hand. I was 8. You were transparent. I brushed my thumb over her waist and she didn't move away. I still am. That made her quiet. Mara knocked once on the kitchen door and opened it immediately, proving the knock had been ceremonial. Sorry to interrupt whatever this very heterosexual flower situation is, but there's a line and Eddie is explaining your engagement to tourists. Lila closed her eyes. I'm going to put him in a pie. Savory or sweet? I asked. She pointed at me. Don't encourage me. But she was smiling when she went back out. At 7, I stood on the porch of the blue house on Alder Street with wildflowers from the grocery store and a shirt Mara had informed me was less insurance salesman, more emotionally available. Lila opened the door in a green sundress. I forgot the flowers had a function. She looked down at them, then back at me. Are those for me, or are you threatening my porch? You look beautiful. Her teasing expression faltered. That was the thing about Lila. She could handle jokes like armor, but tenderness still found the seams. Thank you, she said. I held out the flowers. These are also beautiful, but losing badly. She took them, smiling despite herself. Better. We walked to the Founders' Day Fair instead of driving. The evening smelled like fried dough and cut grass. Lights strung across Main Street turned the whole town soft and golden. We shared kettle corn, argued over ring toss strategy, and slow danced near the gazebo to a local band murdering old love songs with great enthusiasm. Lila fit against me like she had at the creek, but this time she didn't pretend it was accidental. Her cheek rested near my collarbone. My hand held hers over my heart. I missed you, she said, so quietly the music almost swallowed it. I closed my eyes. There it was, the thing I didn't deserve and wanted anyway. I missed you too, I said. I just didn't let myself know it. That sounds exactly like something a man would say after wasting 15 years. I'm trying to become less stupid. You have a long road. Will you walk some of it with me? She lifted her head. The colored lights reflected in her eyes. Some, she said. Not all. Not yet. Some is my favorite distance. Her smile turned soft. Then she kissed me in the middle of Main Street, in front of the gazebo, in front of Eddie and Mayor Finch and half the town, and I kissed her back like public embarrassment was a small price to pay for being chosen by Lila Hart. When we broke apart, someone cheered. Lila hid her face against my chest. I hate this town. No, you don't. No, she muttered, but I'm considering it. I held her closer, laughing into her hair. Across the street, the old bait shop window caught my eye. There, behind glass, was the purple-crayon promise. I looked at it, then at the woman in my arms. For the first time, that childish vow didn't feel like a joke. It felt like a question still waiting for my grown-up answer. The next morning, Lila found me standing outside the bait shop, staring at our promise like it might start giving instructions. She came up beside me with 2 coffees, ceramic mugs. "Borrowed these from the bakery," she said. "You committing mug theft for me?" "Don't get sentimental. You're returning them." I took mine, smiling. "Yes, boss." "Careful. That word is in the contract." We stood shoulder to shoulder in front of the framed paper. The purple crayon had faded. The stick figure version of me had hair like a lightning strike. Stick figure Lila wore what looked like a crown, though she claimed it was just realistic self-awareness. "I can't believe Eddie put this up," I said. "I can't believe you spelled especially right at 8. I was serious about my vows. She glanced at me. "Were you?" The question was gentle, but it reached deep. I looked at the paper, then at her. "At 8? I meant I wanted to sit next to you at lunch forever and never let anyone else be your partner for canoe day." "That was very romantic of you." I was advanced. "And now?" My heart beat once, hard. Now was the question. Not someday, not childhood, not a cute town legend that sold blueberry scones. Now meant Lila in a green dress under festival lights, Lila's flour-dusted thumb at my mouth, Lila asking me to stay for 1 cup of coffee because she was brave enough to want proof and proud enough to demand it. "I'm not ready to ask you to marry me," I said. Her face went carefully blank. I set my mug on the bait shop windowsill and turned toward her. "Not because I don't want to, because you deserve better than a man using a childhood promise as a shortcut." Her eyes searched mine. "I want to date you," I said. "Properly, badly, with embarrassing effort. I want to earn Sunday mornings and grocery lists and the right to know when you're tired before you say it. I want to learn the woman I missed becoming." Lila swallowed. "And if someday I ask you again," I said, "I want it to be because we built something real enough to stand on. Not because an 8-year-old with a crayon had excellent taste." Her mouth trembled before the smile came. "You do understand," she said. "That was almost a proposal against proposing." "I'm complicated." "You're wordy." "You like it." "I tolerate it when paired with emotional growth." I stepped closer. "Is that a yes? To dating? To embarrassing effort?" She lifted her coffee like she was considering terms. "There will be probation. Naturally. Seasonal reviews? Expected. And if you ever send me a Christmas card with a printed signature again, I will feed it to you. Romantic probation accepted." She looked up at me, softer now. "Then yes." I kissed her there, in front of the bait shop, in front of our ridiculous framed promise and the early morning delivery truck and Eddie, who opened the door at exactly the wrong time and immediately yelled, "I knew it!" Lila broke the kiss just long enough to point at him. "Go inside, Eddie," grinned. "You kids want the original document? I kept it safe." I blinked. "That's not the original?" He tapped the glass. "Copy, original's in the register. Figured it might be worth something when you two finally got your heads right." Lila groaned into my chest. "This town is a disease." I laughed and held her while Eddie disappeared inside. That afternoon, I rented the apartment over the hardware store. It had uneven floors, stubborn pipes, and a view of Heart and Hearth's back door. Lila called it strategically clingy. I called it convenient. I found part-time work helping Mr. Alvarez restore old houses, which turned out to be satisfying in a way spreadsheets had never been. At night, I helped Lila close the bakery. Some evenings, we ate takeout on flour buckets. Some nights, we argued about music while washing pans. Sometimes, she kissed me against the walk-in cooler and told me I was still on probation, which made me highly motivated to improve. We didn't become perfect. I panicked the first time Grant called again and offered me a regional director position. Lila found me on the bakery steps with my phone in my hand and old fear in my throat. She didn't beg me to stay. She just sat beside me and said, "Choose your life, Caleb. Don't make me choose it for you." So I did. I deleted the voicemail. Then I took her hand and asked if she wanted to go look at paint colors for the apartment, because apparently I now had opinions about walls. She cried a little. Then she called my preferred shade of gray corporate oatmeal. By the following spring, the town had stopped asking whether we were engaged and started asking whether we were ever going to do something about that paper. Lila pretended annoyance, but I caught her looking at the bait shop window sometimes, her expression unreadable. On the anniversary of the day I came home, I closed the bakery early with Mara's help and led Lila to Willow Creek. There was a blanket on the grass, 2 sandwiches from her display case, and the original purple crayon promise, newly framed. Lila stared at it, then at me. Caleb? I know, I said quickly. No shortcut. Her eyes filled. I took her hands. This isn't me asking because of what I promised when I was 8. This is me asking because for the last year, I have woken up every day and chosen to stay. Chosen you. Chosen this life. And somehow, every ordinary thing with you feels like the part I was missing. She was crying now, but smiling too. I love you, Lila Hart, I said. I loved you badly as a kid, missed you stupidly as a man, and I want to love you properly for the rest of my life. Will you marry me? She wiped her cheek. That depends. My heart stopped. On? Does the new contract still include especially if she gets bossy? I laughed, breathless. It's my favorite clause. Then yes. I barely got the ring out before she kissed me. A year after that, Lila walked down the aisle in the garden behind the bakery under strings of white lights and pear blossoms. Eddie cried louder than my mother. Mara officiated because she had gotten ordained online and claimed she was emotionally qualified. At the reception, beside our wedding cake, Lila placed the framed childhood promise. Under it, in her neat handwriting, she had added one line. Proven. Now, most mornings I wake before dawn to the smell of bread and coffee. Lila steals the blankets. I still own 1 pair of expensive shoes, though they live in the back of the closet like a warning. Our daughter, Junie, is 3 now, bossy in a way that makes Lila unbearably proud. And she likes to point at the framed promise in our kitchen and ask, Daddy, did you really promise Mommy forever? And every time I pull Lila close, kiss the top of her flour-dusted head and say, Yes, sweetheart, but the best part is I got to prove it. What would you have done if you came back to your hometown and found your childhood promise to marry your best friend framed for everyone to see? Have you ever experienced something similar, an old promise, an old love, or a second chance that changed everything? Tell me your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.